Module 3.3, Science Fiction and Speculative Fiction, Week 11, Thinking Out Louder Lecture. 3.3. Science Fiction. Science Fiction and Speculative Fiction. Isaac Asimov famously said, "The science fiction of today is the science fact of tomorrow." This lecture helps you understand what separates fantasy from science fiction and how speculative fiction can differ from science fiction and what the uses and functions of each can be in fostering sustainability in the real world. Joe Tankersley, the former Disney Imagineer and current futurist, makes the case that, quote, digital natives and millennials are much more savvy about how realities can be imagineered and manipulated and packaged and told, and that the future demands that we, quote, reimagine our tomorrows so that we may make sure our futures don't suck. He says at the end of the book, for you, these stories can serve as a form of empowerment. He says, I urge you to rewrite them to better align with your values or to write your own stories. Anyone can use the same tools I have used to create strategic narratives. You will need to base your version on the evidence of emerging trends and a basic understanding of the forces of change. The most important skill to develop is a critical optimism about what is possible. That's from page 160 to 161. The first 5 chapters of the book help develop that critical optimism. And Tankersley's message is consistent with what we have studied in Dutton's The Art Instinct. The real tools for envisioning sustainability are not video cameras and computer editing programs or digital wizardry. They are storytelling, plain and simple. Good storytelling empowers, and the best storytelling involves. When The Guardian's longest-serving theatre critic Michael Billington told us at the British American Drama Academy that the function of theatre was not just to entertain, but to transform, he meant empower. If the narratives in theatre plays left you despondent and depressed without offering some hope of salvation, even at the cost of deep and painful introspection, those plays would quickly go extinct. We tend to enjoy even dystopian fictions as tragedies that contain important moral lessons precisely because we have hope that we can avoid the fate of the characters within. The saying that those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it comes from the hope that if you do know where things went wrong, you can correct it. And dystopian nightmares are a kind of future history, if you like. The movies that truly move you and make you launch into a post-cinematic experience discussion with your friends, like, is Iron Man really dead? Did Thanos disappear from the entire multiverse or just the Marvel universe? Could he cross over into the DC universe? Is it possible to move from one to another? Whoa, what's the relationship between these universes and our real universe? Is time travel possible? If you went back in time and killed your younger self, would you disappear or simply spawn a new universe? While such discussions might seem esoteric and to some even silly, such fantastic contemplations have always served as an empowering heuristic, which I like to think of as a question that leads to other questions. Even seemingly useless questions can lead to more fruitful questions if you're mentally prepared to mine the field of infinite possibilities for gems. Kendra Cherry's very well-mined website about cognitive psychology defines a heuristic as, quote, a mental shortcut that allows people to solve problems and make judgments quickly and efficiently. These rule-of-thumb strategies shorten decision-making time and allow people to function without constantly stopping to think about their next course of action. Heuristics are helpful in many situations, but they can also lead to cognitive biases, end quote. Being aware of your tropes and tendencies, as we pointed out earlier, can help us avoid those cognitive biases. And a broader definition of heuristics and its mindful application can also help, because heuristics are always shorthand suggestions and never definitive answers. Cherry explores the seminal work on heuristics by Tversky and Kahneman and points out a few different theories offered by psychologists to explain their origin and persistence. Effort reduction. According to this theory, people utilize heuristics as a type of cognitive laziness. Heuristics reduce the mental effort required to make choices and decisions. Attribute substitution. Other theories suggest people substitute simpler but related questions in place of more complex and difficult questions. Fast and frugal. Still other theories argue that heuristics are actually more accurate than they are biased. In other words, We use heuristics because they are fast and usually correct. Attribute substitution heuristics explain much of the value of fiction, of storytelling. The caricatures we draw in comic book fantasies act as easy to relate to or mentally embrace stand-ins for far more complex phenomenological questions. What seems silly and absurd in mythological epics was never meant to be taken literally, but can lead post hoc, post-viewing, to a higher level of engagement with more complex issues. Many fictions act as a bridge to carry us out of our immediate comfort zone into realms we might otherwise have feared to tread mentally, giving us good preparation for possible real encounters in the future. Etymologically, heuristic derives from the Greek words meaning I find, I discover. So it's easy to understand that they evolved as cognitive skills for improving exploration of humankind's early environments. Wikipedia notes, quote, heuristics may produce results by themselves, or they may be used in conjunction with optimization algorithms to improve their efficiency. That is, they may be used to generate good seed values. Results about NP hardness in theoretical computer science make heuristics the only viable option for a variety of complex optimization problems that need to be routinely solved in real-world applications. Heuristics underlie the whole field of artificial intelligence and the computer simulation of thinking, as they may be used in situations where there are no known algorithms, end quote. The contextual advantages of human heuristics are mythologized in many works of fiction, chief among them the Star Trek series, wherein there is a constant tension between the ever-logical Mr. Spock and the brash Captain Kirk. The narratives of many Star Trek plots has Kirk's defiance of logic and reliance on his gut instincts prevail, and suggest that somehow human emotion is superior to cold logic. But what the films don't adequately explore is that what behavioral psychologist Gigerenza and Todd famously called fast and frugal heuristics are simply another cognitive toolkit whose reliability only comes from applying them in the right context. There are many times when simple heuristics are not appropriate, and George W. Bush's inane policy statement and behaviors, defended by his insistence, I go with my gut, show just how disastrous the wrong application of heuristics can be. As usual when dealing with reality, the application of any given toolkit is highly context dependent. As my graduate professor, Dr. Randall Crane, would say anytime a student asked him a question in class, well, it all depends. Expertise really involves having the requisite experience to know when to use fast and frugal time-saving heuristics and when to do your discoveries with slow, plodding, controlled experimentation using the equally natural scientific method which our Paleolithic ancestors also evolved for discovery and decision-making. It was all evolution. And the fact is that all methods are employed by healthy humans with great overlap. And the postmodernist realization that the rigid either-or, you're either with us or against us, black and white, left and right thinking that plagued much of history and defines the modern era, and that still causes us so much misunderstanding, prejudice, and conflict, must give way to the more nuanced mastery of properly mixed both and thinking. The irony of the Star Trek conflict and the subtlety needed to use otherwise blunt heuristics is that they really are future-oriented cognitive technologies that evolve to help us boldly go where no one has gone before. They exist to help us in the absence of appropriate algorithms. On the one hand, they can be conceived as gut instincts, but on the other, they are creative hypotheses. And this is a paradox, because instincts are supposed to be hardwired responses to predictable features of an environment, and heuristics are supposed to help us find quick solutions to unpredictable moments and features of changing environments. Instincts are rather simple, hard-coded algorithms programmed into a robot or organism that usually fail when conditions change, while heuristics are like ever-evolving genetic algorithms that are used to adapt to novelty. The best metaphor for them, I think, is in the wiki quote, heuristics may produce results by themselves, or they may be used in conjunction with optimization algorithms to improve their efficiency. For example, they may be used to generate good seed values, end quote.